Okay, welcome everyone. As we have another very pleasant daf tonight, and we are dedicated by A.B. Spry for Nachas from his whole family, by Baruch Ian, Leila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKayin, by Shalom Fogel, Leila Nishmas Rabbi Yaakov Zeb Ben Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh, Maris Rivka Bas Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, Maris Sivya Miriam Bas Rabbi Gad, Rabbi Yosef Ben Siyam Ben Rabbi Yaakov Zeb Fogel, by Yaakov Umansky, Akar Satov to the Rav and the Zoom family, Nachas from children and grandchildren, by Ed Saleh from London, and by Joshua Rosenberg. We learn for our Chavar Adaf, Shimon Yehuda Ben Gittel, and we welcome in Saba, we welcome in Irving Fishbaum, Mark Frankel, Chaim Lerner, Eddie Chazan, Chaim Kramer, Eddie Chazan, Baruch Ian, Menachem Umansky, Yisrael Fisher, Aaron Swade, and in the Agudas Yisrael of Fairways, we welcome in Michal Avram, Gedalia Engel, and Rich Leonard, Mel Zachter, Yisrael Meir Kaplan, Shalom Fogel, Nachman Chapler, Barish Gesserman, Moshe Lehman, Rabbi Kranz, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, and David Helfgott on Coalition. And we are holding, bottom line, of Daf Yud Testament Beis. Remember we said, if there is a room that has a corpse in it, Lo Yaleinu, everything under the roof is tamei. If there's a wall and there's a window to another room, if the opening is a tefach by a tefach, then the tumah will spread through that opening into the next room. However, if there's something in the opening, which is not makabel tumah, and which is not going to be removed, so then it will block, if it minimizes it, the opening to less than tefach by tefach, it will block the tumah from spreading through the window. So we said, if there is an earthenware vessel full of figs, then that will block the opening. So right away the Gemara asks, Hai chovyas hechidamya. This earthenware vessel, how was it situated? Ida puma levar, if its mouth was facing away, so then you don't need the figs. He gufa teichaitz. It itself should block the tumah, because a klei cheres is not metamei me'aviroi. A klei cheres is not metamei me'achurav. It does not become tamei from its outside. So if its face was facing outward and not into the room where the corpse is, then its back would block the tumah. The klei cheres ain't a metamei megaboy, because the klei cheres is not susceptible to tumah from its back. Says the Gemara that its mouth is facing inside. So since its mouth is facing inside, therefore it won't block tumah. Says the Gemara, v'iba yisayim, ha'lo'ilam de puma levar. Its mouth was outside, but it's talking about a metal keli. It's talking about a jug of metal. Now a jug of metal is metame from the back, and therefore it itself will not block the tumah. Meisvei, asovim shetolshan. Here again we have this window, and what Nachman did is he cut some grass, vanichan b'chaloin, and put it in the window. Oy she'olu me'alehen, or some grass was growing and it blocked the window, or it grew by itself and leaned into the window and blocked the window. Umatloinios or rag she'ein b'hem shalosh al shalosh, that is not 3 by 3 finger breadths. Va'ever va'basar ameduldolim bebehema b'chayev va'if, or a limb or meat that was hanging from a live animal, beast, or bird, sheshachan b'chalaim, that's resting in the windowsill, or va'oivei kerchavim sheyashav b'chalaim, or a guy that's sitting in the window, or ben shmoina hamunach b'chalaim, or a child that was premature. It was an 8-month child, which in the time of the Gemara, if it had gestation of only 8 months, it cannot live. Va'melech, or salt, or v'klei cheres, or an earthenware vessel, or a sefer Torah, kulan mematin b'chalaim, all diminish the window to make it less than a tefach by a tefach, and the tumah will not spread to the next room. Aval hashelik, but snow, v'aborad, or hail, v'aglid, or frost, v'akfar, or ice, v'amayim, or water, kulan ein mematin b'chalaim, all of those are mekabel tumah, and therefore they cannot diminish the space of the window. So right away the Gemara says, I don't understand. Remember we said if it's something that you're going to take away, it doesn't diminish. Now grass, Nachman put grass there, the grass is fit to give to the animal, and therefore he's going to take it away. Says the Gemara ba'afrazta, it's talking about a type of grass that's poisonous to animals, and therefore he's not going to give it to his animals. Now, Mishnah says, Oisha olu me'alehen, or if the grass grew by itself and it leaned into the window, it will block it. But we said if something grows near a wall, it's injurious to the wall. So therefore he's going to cut it down. Kevin the Kasher the Kaisel, since it's no good for the wall, shakalu, he's going to take it away. Says, no, it's talking about a wall of a churba, of a rune. So, you're not worried about the wall. Amarabba b'kaisel churba. Rapapa ma'afilu b'kaisel yishuv, but it's talking about where the grass is 3 tvachim away from the wall. B'ban chutz l'shloish, it's coming from outside of 3 tvachim. We said if it's 3 tvachim away from the wall, it's not injurious to the wall. Mataloniyos, rags, but rags, kazulei l'kriya de levusha. It's fit to use as a patch for clothing if the clothing gets torn. Says the Gemara besmichta, it's talking about where it's thick material. Thick material you can't use as a patch. Wow, I'm keeping people waiting in the waiting room over here. Sorry guys that I kept you waiting in the waiting room. I got so orangutan in the Gemara. I didn't notice that you were waiting. My apologies. As we're midway down Chaf Amud Aleph, so the Gemara says it's talking about besmichta where it's thick cloth that it can't be used for a patch. If it's thick, chazul umna, it's fit for a bloodletter. A bloodletter will use it to clean the mouth of the wound. Right? He takes the blood and then he'll clean it with this thick cloth. Says the Gemara Bariska, it's talking about if it's sackcloth, so it's coarse and it could injure the wound. Says the Gemara Bariska, if it's sackcloth, the shear of sackcloth is not 3 by 3 finger breadths, it's 4 by 4 tvachim. Sheimam shalosh al shalosh, the shear shouldn't be 3 by 3 finger breadths. Sheimam al ba, it should be 4 by 4 tvachim. That's the shear. That if sackcloth is less than 4 by 4 tvachim, it's not mekabel tama. Says the Gemara, no, ke'ein riska. It's actually not sackcloth, it's regular cloth, but it's of a coarse material that will irritate the wound. Says the Gemara, if you have a limb or meat that's hanging from an animal or a beast, and it's in the window. Says, how could that black? Or kavazla, it's a live animal, the animal will run away. Says the Gemara, Pshura, it's talking about where the animal is tied there. But still, shachadla, he'll take the animal away to slaughter it. But Tmeya, it's talking about a non-kosher animal. But even if it's a non-kosher animal, ma'azim lo l'nachri, he'll sell it to a guy. Says the Gemara b'kusha. It's talking about where it's emaciated. Still, pasik shadi lo l'kalavim. He'll cut off that meat or that limb and throw it to the dogs. Says the Gemara, Tsar Balichaim, and we learn out from this week's parasha over here that there's Tsar Balichaim is Doraisa, Tsar Balichaim lo yovid. Now it also says, if a bird alights on the window, it diminishes the tefa by tefa. Says the Gemara, but what does it help? Parach v'azal, it's going to fly away. Says the Gemara, kosher, it's tied there. Shakalei, but he's going to take it to shechted. B'tamei, it's not kosher. Masmalei l'nachri, he'll sell it to a guy. B'kalnisa, it's an emaciated bird. Now, kalnisa is a type of bird that's very lean. So he says, Yolvlei liyanuka, but he'll give it to a child to play with. B'misarid, it has a beak, and it scratches, so he's afraid to give it to his child. Says Gemara kalnisa, but that lean bird, loy misarto, doesn't scratch. Says Gemara ke'ein kalnisa, it's a very thin bird, but of the species that does scratch. And if a guy is sitting in the window, he'll diminish the share of the window. Says Gemara kaivazel, the guy will get up and leave. Bekafis, he's tied there. Asi chavrei sharilei, but his friend will come and untie him. B'mitzayri, he's a leper, and therefore nobody will want to go near him because they don't want to catch his leprosy. But asi mitzayri chavrei sharilei, another leper will come and untie him. Ela b'chavushay malchus, he's tied there because he's condemned by the throne, and therefore nobody is going to untie him because they don't want to mess around with the throne. Uben shmaina, and if he's an 8-month child, in other words, the child had only 8-month gestation, and although a 7th month and a 9th month can live, but in the Gemara's time, an 8th-month child was considered like dead. Says the Gemara, Uben shmaina amunah b'chaloim. Says the Gemara, Asya imei daryalei, the mother will come and take him away. Says the Gemara b'Shabbos, it's on Shabbos, and on Shabbos that child is muksa. The Tanya ben Shmaina hariyu ke'evan, he's like a rock. V'asa l'taltaloi b'Shabbos, you're not allowed to move him on Shabbos, but the mother could bend over and nurse in order that she shouldn't be with sakana of too much milk. Aval imay shoicha alav u'manikta, she could bend over him and nurse him mipnei hasakana. Says the Gemara, we said salt also minimizes. So asks the Gemara, Melech Chazilei, salt is fit, you're going to take it away to use on your meat. But Merirta, it's talking about bitter salt. But a Chazila Iris, it's fit for the tanning of hides. The Isba Kaitze, it's talking about where it's mixed with thorns. Says the Gemara, well, but still, Kavan the Kashi Lekaisel, if it's no good for the wall because salt is corrosive, he's going to take it away. Shakla. Says the Gemara, the Yosva Achaspa, it's sitting on a plate of earthenware. And that plate of earthenware protects the wall. So the Gemara says, but Chaska Gufa Techetz, that plate of earthenware itself should minimize the share of a tefa by a tefa. Says the Gemara, it's talking about a very thin plate of earthenware that doesn't have its own identity. Kavan the lesba shi'ura, since it doesn't have the requisite thickness, it's commanda lesser, Rashi says. Kiditnan, what's the minimum shear on Shabbos that if you carry it outside on Shabbos, you're chayiv? Cheres kidei litain bein patzim lechavera. Earthenware, enough to put between one window slat and the next. In those days, they didn't have they didn't have shades. They had slats. And in order that the slats shouldn't come too close to one another, they put an earthenware plate on the top between them and an earthenware plate on the bottom. So only if it's that thickness, and here it's talking about an earthenware plate that doesn't have that thickness, and therefore it doesn't have its own identity to minimize the opening. But says the Gemara, I don't understand. in the Brisa, it also says, see the lashon of the Brisa. Yeah, the Brisa, after it says salt, it says klei cheres, that a klei cheres is going to minimize the area. But chazilei, it's fit, he's going to take it away to use the earthenware keli. Says the Gemara de Metanif, it's very, very filthy, and therefore he's not going to use it. Says the Gemara, but chazilomna, it's fit to use, the bloodletter could let the blood drain in it. The menakit, it has a small hole, and since it has a small hole, he's not going to let it because it's going to make a mess. Says the Gemara, Sefer Torah. But what do you mean? Why should Sefer Torah minimize it? Chazi l'mikra. You could read from it, so people are going to take it away to learn from the Sefer Torah. Biboli, it's worn out. You can't read the letters. Says the Gemara, but you have to take it away to put it in Geniza. You have to put it away out of respect. V'abai Geniza. Says the Gemara, Shamtei Genizasa. In that windowsill, it could be left there because nobody's going to touch it in the windowsill, and therefore that could be the place of its Geniza. V'amarav. B'kol oisin mechitza. Anything could be used to make a partition, whether it's for Tumah or whether it's a partition for Shabbos to give something a din of a Rishus Yachid. Chutz memelech urevav, except for salt and fat, because those things don't last. V'shmul amar afilu melech, even salt. And amar apapul loy pligi, there's no argument. Haba melech staimus, one is talking about the coarse staimus salt, which will stand, and therefore you can make a mechitza with it. V'aba melech is strikeness, and one is talking about table salt. Table salt doesn't stand, and therefore it's not good for a mechitza. V'hashdadama Rabbah. Now that Rabbah said, Ois Adam Shnei Tzivurei Melech, we know that one of the ways to be able to carry in an alleyway is to put up a crossbeam at the mouth of the alleyway, a kaira. Now, one of the ways you could put up a kaira is, as we learn, Rabbah says, Oisa Adam Shnei Tzivurei Melech, you could make two pillars of salt, or maniach aleim kaira, and place across them a crossbeam. Shamelech mamedes es kaira, because the salt will hold the crossbeam, va'kaira mamedes es melech, and the crossbeam will keep the salt in place. So then it could be afilu melech is strikeness, v'loy pligi, they're not arguing. If there's a beam on top of it, it's going to stay in place, and it could be a good mechitza. The lekka kaira, if there's no beam on top of it, it will dissipate, and it's not a good mechitza. Now, I'm going so fast that I didn't even get a chance to see all the delicious people that joined us. Mo Kushner came in later, and Stephen Holtzman, and Reb Rezepkowitz. It's great to have all of you people. Yeshua Shmuel, look how rich we are over here. 27 Zoomers. Great to have everybody.
Can I ask a question on this a general question on this?
Yeah.
It seems like if these things will stay there, then it's going to be a mechitza, and if not, not?
Correct. If it doesn't have a permanence.
How long is considered a permanence, though? I mean, a week or a month? I mean, any of these things are not going to be permanent forever. The Sefer Torah is going to eventually,
No, the Sham taking these also. It's not eventually. They're keeping it there. Remember, it's a bully. It can't be used.
Yeah, I understand, but it seems like not derech eretz for a Sefer Torah to
the Gemara doesn't
disintegrate.
The Gemara doesn't say that. It says Sham taking these also. Next.
Okay. All right.
Now, says the Gemara, Marchikin eserichayim, we distanced the mill from a wall, Gimel min ashkav, 3 from the lower stone, Shein arba min harechev, which is 4 tvachim from the indented upper stone that rides on the lower stone. So my time, well, what's the reason? So the Gemara thinks that the reason is mishum tirya, because of the vibrations. Says the Gemara, Vatanya v'shel chamar, a mill that's powered by a donkey, shloisha min ha-stroibel, 3 tvachim from the track, shein arba min ha-keles, which is 4 tvachim from the stone that's pulled by the donkey. Now, since it's pulled by the donkey, there isn't that much vibration. So, hasa maitir, what vibration is there? Elamishum kala, it's because of the noise. The noise is not good for the wall. Vesataner and the oven, shloishim min akalia, 3 tvachim from the base, shein arba min hasafa, which is 4 tvachim from its upper edge that tilts inward. So the Gemara says, Amar Abai Shmami not. We could deduce from here, Kalia de Taner Tefach, that the base of the oven sticks out a tefach. And Nafkamina, the difference is when you come to buy an oven from Marshall, don't let him rook you. Make sure that the base sticks out a tefach. It's always a good idea to bring a manual when you come to buy things from Marshall. Now, Lo Yamid Adam, now we're going to learn some zoning laws. Lo Yamid Adam Taner B'Seikabayis, Marshall, you can't put an oven in your house, Elim Ken Yeshal Gabav Goiva Arbet Amas, unless you have a clear space above it 4 amas to the ceiling. If you're putting the oven on the second floor, you have to have underneath it at least plaster 3 tvachim. Ubekira, now a kira is a double stove, which each one has a smaller fire. And therefore, since each one has a smaller fire, it's enough to have plaster a tefach. But even if Marshall follows the zoning laws, the im hizik, if it still does damage, mishalom ash hizik, he has to pay. Just if he follows the zoning laws, he's allowed to do it. But if it does damage, he has to pay for the damage. Reb Shimon doesn't agree. Reb Shimon Amru Kalash Yiram Elu. It only says these zoning laws, Elishim Hizik Patim L'Shalom. If you follow the laws and you listen to the proper zoning, then if it does damage, you're exempt. Now, poor Yisrael has the bad luck to live on top of Marshall. So, Lo Yiftach Adam Chanoi Shel Nachtoimim V'Shel Tzavoim, Marshall is not allowed to open a bakery or a dye shop Tachas Oitzorah Shel Chaveirah, underneath Yisrael's grain, wine, or oil storage place. And not only that, V'loi Refes Bakar, he also can't put a stable under Yisrael's oil, wine, or grain shed. However, now the Mishnah says, "Be'emes b'yayin etiru." Wine, Marshall, if Yisrael has wine upstairs, Marshall could put a bakery or a dye shop. Why? What's the problem? Smoke? Smoke is good for wine. Avaloi refers bucket, but not a stable, because the smell is certainly not good for the bouquet of the wine. So now the Gemara asks about the zoning. You said an oven, you have to have 3 tvachim of plaster, while a stove 1 tefach. Vatanya, we learned betaner arba, oven is 4 tvachim, ubekira shloisha, and a double stove is 3. Amrabai kitanya hiben nachtumim. That's talking about a baker's oven, because the baker's oven is in constant use. So it's a constant use, you need more plaster underneath it. The Tanner Didan, our oven, Kikira de Nachtumen, our oven where you need 3 tvachim, is like the double stove of the baker where there's 3 tvachim. Lo yiftei chanois, however, Tana, imaisa refes kaidemes l'oitzer, if Marshall had a stable there before Yisrael put in a shed upstairs, it's allowed. Now the question is, what if Yisrael didn't put the shed, but he already did preparations? What happened if he swept and he sprinkled it in preparation to use as a shed, and then Marshall hurries up and builds a stable? Is that allowed? Or what if he put extra windows? Extra windows for ventilation shows that he wants it to be used as a shed. And Marshall hurried up and made a bakery. We're not gairis achsad or tachasayitza, that's taken out. Or boina aliyah al gabe beisama. What happens if Yisrael builds a third floor as an attic for a shed, but he didn't put the shed there yet? Can Marshall make a stable? Can he put a bakery? Take it. Tishbi Yatar Kushin Zibayas. Further, the Gemara asks another shaila. By Rav Huna Breder Rabbi Shua, Tamrei v'rimayne mai. The dinner of a shed is only with grain, oil, and wine. What if Yisrael put their dates and pomegranates before he put in the grain? Can Marshall hurry up and make a bakery, make a stable? Teku. Be'emes b'yayin hitiru. Because wine, they permitted a bakery, a dye shop, because smoke is good for wine. However, it says the Gemara, Tani b'yayin hitiru, yayin they permitted it, the smoke improves it, but not a stable, because the foul smell ruins it. It makes it sour. Says the Gemara, although in the Gemara's time smoke was good for wine, in our day smoke is terrible for wine. Amar Rav Yosef, Haidi done. Our wine is so delicate, afilu kutra de shraga. Even the smoke of a candle, nami koshale, is no good for it. Amar Rav Sheshes, just like Marshall can't put under the wine a stable, because the smell is no good. Amar Rav Sheshes baspasta. Wheat that's a third grown for animal fodder is very foul, and therefore Marshall can't keep that underneath Yisrael's oitzer, because it's kerefes bakadam, it's like a stable. Now, chanoy shebechatzer. And you have a bunch of fine people, Mark, Mel, Ruvain, bunch of fine people. And Marshall opens up a store in the courtyard. They all share the courtyard, and Marshall opens up a store. He's selling franks. It says the Gemara, and bourbon. So Chanoy Shebechatzer, a store in the courtyard, Yochel Limchois Biyadai, all the fine neighbors, Mark, Mel, Ruvain, they could gang up on Marshall. I can't sleep. Mikala nichnasen, from the noise of those people that are coming. Or mikala yotzen, all the customers are keeping me up morning, noon, and night, Mark says. And I have to make it to Rabbi Weiss's daf. However, what they can't stop Marshall from doing, Aval Oisim Kalim, but he could make in the courtyard his own utensils, and go out and sell it in the marketplace. They could complain about other people coming in, but Marshall, who's a member of the courtyard, he could wield his craft in the courtyard and sell the stuff outside of the courtyard. They can't stop him. They can't say they can't say that. Mark can't say, I can't sleep for the noise of your hammer. And Reuben can't say, I can't sleep from your mill. Nor from the voice of the children. Now that's difficult. The Gemara assumes the children means the customers. But we just said that we could stop Marshall from the customers. You know, Marshall sells bourbon to whoever comes, even children. He's an equal opportunity employer.
They look better when they're dancing around drunk than adults do.
That's what I told you, Rabbi Isai. Says the Gemara, you should never have him in your courtyard. Now, Says the Gemara.
I take offense to that.
Yeah, well, good fences make good neighbors. Now, so says the Gemara, Maishno ratio, Maishno Sefer. Why in the Sefer, Reuven can't say, I can't take the noise of the children. Amar Abaye Sefer Osam L'Chotzer Acheres. Oh. If Reuven wants to say that in another courtyard there's noise of children, that he can't do. He could only complain about what's going on in his courtyard. He can't complain what's going on in another courtyard. Amalei Rava says that's not pshat. If they want to do it in another courtyard, it's allowed. Now, Rava, here it's talking about if Marshall is a Rebbe teaching children. If Marshall is a Rebbe teaching children and the children make noise, that they cannot stop. Elama Rava Sefer, the Sefer is talking about, I know people are aghast at the thought, but Sefer Ozan Litinoike Shel Beis Rabbah, where Marshall is a Rebbe.
No way.
If Marshall is a Rebbe, so then they can't stop him and say that the children are bothering him. Now, why not? Yeshua ben Gamla ve'elach. It's from the takana of Yeshua ben Gamla. Yeshua ben Gamla was a prestigious Kohen Gadol who wanted to ensure that there would be a continuity of education in Klal Yisrael, and he enacted in all the cities that we should teach the children. And therefore, he gave broad powers to the Rebbeim. And therefore, if Marshall is teaching Torah, then Mark can't say, I can't sleep. They're saying Aleph, Patach, Beis, Kametz, Ba. I can't sleep. He's not allowed to do that. Marshall has the right of eminent domain. Now, Baruch Hashem, that was a pleasant daf. Tonight, Rabbi said we have a simcha over here. You might not realize it. You might not be prepared for it. But we have a simcha tonight. We finish Gittin and we start Kedushin. Isn't that amazing? It's not so long ago that we started Gittin. It's right. And Gittin is a full, big Masechta. It's really, really amazing.
Rabbi, I didn't pick up on that, so I'm good for it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go like this. This was Bava Basra.
I didn't realize it was we were that close to the end.
Bava Basra. Yeah, time goes by when you're having fun.